The story begins with a young woman who sees herself as a silent social outcast. No one openly ignores her, yet she can feel the weight of their lingering gazes. No matter how much she tries, she can never truly blend in. Also, whenever she makes eye contact with them, she can always sense mockery as if they are scorning her. Maybe they just mistook her for a walking statue, silent, still, and slightly creepy. Astonishingly, her isolated life lasts for 2 decades, and in a way, she has been living a cursed life. Currently, in April 2027, the young woman, named Koharu Kanaba, is 35 years old. It appears that she spends her dreary days stalking some people on the internet and snooping on their chats with a racing heart. So such snoot dogs are related to Courage the Cowardly Dog. One day, when she is busy snooping on someone named Nia and Haruko, her mother brings her some food. Suddenly, Koharu realizes that her mother has gotten a lot older, or maybe your eyesight has gotten weaker due to abnormal screen usage. Usually, she doesn't notice her mother much since by the time she checks on the door, her mother is already far away. Frantically, she wonders whether she always had a snowy crown. She tries to console herself that according to the internet, people in their 60s are usually healthy and fit. Yup, according to Google, 60 is the new 40. She coaxes herself that she is also in her 30s only, but a tinge of uncertainty about her well-being lingers. A terrible feeling strikes her that even though she has a long life ahead, her mother doesn't have much time left. A certain picture of her mother suddenly falling to death sends chills down her spine. In sheer anxiety, her mind keeps on telling her to go back, but practically that is impossible. If time travel were real, then all anti-aging cream companies would become bankrupt. On the spot, she decides to break her social hesitation and to be more communicative. She plans to talk about her favorite anime, games, and just anything to make new friends. On social media, she likes nearly all posts to get some attention. At this point, even spam bots started thinking she was one of them. Soon she finds someone named Naoto, already keen to socialize. She guesses that maybe that person got a notification as he responded to her instantly. They immediately gel in together and then both decide to meet in person. Finding an instant friend online is either a miracle or a warning sign. Her parents are startled to see her finally out of her shell. She hesitantly mentions that she is going to meet a friend. She stammers, trying to convince her parents that once she meets that person, she hopes to be a part-timer later. Her parents are just shocked that she knows what outside looks like. Her parents gladly allow her to go. Soon she reaches a decided meeting spot and immediately spots a boy wearing the knit hat that he earlier mentioned in his DM so that she can identify him. She tries to gain his attention as he is busy glued to his phone. If ignoring people was an Olympic sport, he'd have at least 3 gold medals. Sweating uncontrollably, she confirms his name and then introduces herself. With great difficulty, she reminds him about their scheduled meeting. The guy scans her from head to toe, smirks, and then gets busy on the phone, so he practically ghosted her out. Koharu's eyes boggle and her mouth breaks into a sarcastic grin when she finds him staring at her like anyone else, but only this time he was pretending to be her friend. Without throwing her a second glance, he walks past her, but his acrid insult rings in her ears as he calls her a weirdo who cannot be befriended by him. At this point, she should just charge people for the free entertainment. Poor Koharu is shattered, as her disastrous past is ruthlessly dumped on her face again. She can still feel those mocking jeers stabbing her face and heart. Immediately she flees from the scene heartbroken, unable to comprehend why mean things happen to her. In her frenzy, she falls off an under-construction bridge and hits the rocky surface. Brutally injured, Koharu is certain that this is her end. She desperately wanted to change her life but couldn't understand where she went wrong. Basically, her whole life was buffering before her eyes when 2 angels brought her into this world and took pains to raise her, but she was heartlessly cast aside. She silently apologizes to her dear mother for being unable to transform. Even in death, she feared getting judged tough life. Like a bolt in the blue, Koharu hears her mother's voice lashing her out for sleeping till late since it is nearly time for the entrance ceremony. Koharu is confused to find herself in a house instead of a hospital. As she sees a very younger version of herself in the mirror, she is completely taken aback to discover that she is very much alive. She was either dreaming, hallucinating, or had become the protagonist of a really weird anime. As she stares at her reflection in disbelief, her mother yells at her for still being in pajamas. A uniform is tossed her way. She's a high schooler now. Later, on a packed train, she remains skeptical about her appearance. Some things never change, teens full of themselves and always getting scolded. She cannot believe that she went through a drastic change. She wonders whether she has turned back time. As she flips over a vintage flip phone, she finds out that she has been transported to the year 2007, nearly 20 years from her current time. Goodbye 2027. Hello, bad fashion choices and questionable haircuts. She never thought a conventional manga or anime-like situation would actually happen to her. Her thoughts are interrupted by an energetic lad referring to her as Coco. He expresses his curiosity about her prolonged absence. Koharu stares at him deeply and then remembers a chubby little boy who used to be her friend. She instantly recognizes him as Izumi, who used to be to her elementary schoolmate. Koharu recalls that throughout high school he was her only friend. She observes that he has changed a lot, while puberty hit him like a truck, and completely ignored her. Izumi mentions that he lost a lot of weight. Next, he considers himself fortunate to be in her high school. Koharu doesn't realize that rivers have started flowing out of her eyes, rough tears of frustration or something else. Poor Izumi gets anxious, wondering whether he did something to make her cry. Koharu is crying because Izumi is talking to her, even being an outsider. When he gets more perplexed, she clasps her mouth, quickly declaring him to be the kindest person she knows. Face it, boy, she doesn't meet handsome boys daily. Izumi is still clueless about her blabbering. Even after they get off the train, he is concerned about her. In response, Koharu smiles, secretly pondering whether God is fulfilling her long-lost dream. Izumi shows her a victory sign and exclaims again about how fortunate he is being in the same class as her. Soon they both head towards their class. It strikes her whether this is really high school and everything has gone on repeat mode. Koharu is like, is it déjà vu, or am I stuck in some terrible hypnotic state? Still, she is unable to comprehend why she ended up alone and what happened to an overcaring friend like Izumi. As they enter the classroom, Izumi shouts out a big morning greeting. So when everyone stares at them in stupor, Izumi guesses that this is bound to happen on the first day of school, or maybe they are shocked to find him accompanying an alien. Unknown to him, all the individuals are mesmerized by his dashing looks. Meanwhile, he is slightly disappointed that he was unable to strive them up. Suddenly, a young girl approaches him and introduces herself as Yuko Mochizuki. Izumi is relieved as finally someone who isn't just staring like I'm a rare Pokemon. She shows immense interest in him, and that makes Koharu roll her eyes. Izumi notices that and instantly asks for her phone number. Koharu tries to avoid, but he is persistent. The mysterious girl is trying to play hard to get. He completely ignores Yuko and pulls out his phone to punch down the numbers. But for some reason, he is unable to get the hang of the phone, so he tells Koharu to wait a little. Koharu anxiously reminds him that homeroom is about to start, so they can always exchange phone numbers later. Poor Izumi's phone has betrayed him at the worst possible time. Others gossip about the duo as being completely misfit for each other. A deadpan Yuka is lost in her own thoughts. The next day, Koharu is delighted to see her younger self in the mirror, unable to believe that she is not in some fantasy dream. Nope, you are stuck in a pathetic marketing campaign for an anti-aging cream. She even checks out her thoughts, which are quite clear and tangible. She recalls her horrible accident and wonders whether she is in some coma-induced dream. Her jumbled-up thoughts are interrupted by her furious mother lashing out at her for being late again. Ah yes, back to reality, and yelling. At school, she is bombarded with lots of trivial information and also about Izumi's immense popularity. As she gazes at the school building ahead, she wonders whether she had seen the school like this 30 years ago. She gazes at those carefree faces, confident about doing whatever they want. Also, she is very much relieved to be alive. Strangely, she can more relate to the school right now than before because earlier she spent most of her time looking at her feet. Wow, you missed out on so much, Koharu, like looking up. Izumi cheerfully shouts a greeting to his classmates, who in turn stare at him in sheer bewilderment. Both Izumi and Koharu are startled by the uncomfortable silence. Suddenly, someone shows him his graduation picture that leaked on the internet. Great, he has gone viral, and not in a cool way. It is also revealed that the picture is all over the bulletin boards. It is Yuka who bursts into tears in front of him, wondering how anybody could be so cruel just 2 days after school started. Now this is called shedding crocodile tears. With glassy eyes, she assures him that she will always be on her side and she will always be there to lend her ear to his issues. Meanwhile, Koharu is stunned at the conversation taking place in front of her. Suddenly, it strikes her that shortly after enrolling, the same thing happened in her previous life. Even at that time, she was on his side but then walked away from him, thinking that the bitterness was brought to him just because of her. Koharu's subconscious works like a vintage reel in a movie theater. She left him because she thought he was embarrassed by her. Currently, Izumi tries to sound cheerful, claiming that he cannot hide the fact that he used to be chubby before. Still, he is a little depressed about being scandalized like that. Cheer up, Izumi, at least they didn't find your baby pictures. Koharu scans through her phone and then finds a picture that clicks her head suddenly. In no time, her classmates receive a message from her. None of them can believe their eyes as they scroll through Koharu's wildest snaps, featuring her hanging out with a short, pudgy Izumi, a duo resembling a baseball bat and a ball. Even Izumi is stunned, but he confirms that the groovy girl in the pictures is indeed Koharu. As the class watches in confusion, Koharu confidently steps forward, proudly declaring, "Yes, that's us. Shoo away, hot girls, he's been my bestie since childhood." She then points out that everyone has changed since their younger days, so trying to shame them over it is pointless. With a smirk, she declares that if anything, this is a case for the court of justice. She threatens them to send letters to their parents about what they have been doing to their classmates. Hey, you've gone too far. No need for parental involvement here. It can be seen that an expressionless Yuko fidgets nervously. Quite firmly, Koharu points out that millions of yen spent by their parents on their education will all go to waste. Yuko is sweating out expensive fees. Our girl declares that she cannot live without her parents since she is financially dependent on them, so when she lives, she has to live according to them. Unconsciously, she recalls her past life, wasting away, doing nothing, and burdening her elderly parents. Wait, she's still in her past life. She remembers how she crushed all their efforts, only realizing it when it was already too late. Next, she turns to Izumi to see whether he wants to file a defamation case in court. A good-natured Izumi refuses since he doesn't even want to report it to a teacher as well. He is smart, who wants the hassles of courtrooms and staff rooms. Koharu decides to drop the charges but still insists that whatever happened isn't ethical, as now the offender has to live with what they did secretly. She even offers to settle the matter by communication afterward. Yuko looks completely drained. It seems like Koharu has managed to stir her innermost chord. Koharu openly offers healthy talks to those people who are trying to hurt her. She feels that offenders always have hope since it is never too late, as regrets always make one a better person. Yup, do offense, apologize, and then do it again. The vicious cycle continues. Next, she declares the whole class as an overall offender since they kept the offense a secret. She urges all of them to individually apologize to Izumi in private. Now the poor guy will have to tend to a long, boring queue. Why, Koharu, why? Lastly, she expresses her gratitude to the class for listening to her. Gradually, the whole class breaks into a hearty applause for her wonderful speech. Koharu is dumbfounded since she didn't see it coming. Wait, was she in a TED Talk now? Even Izumi is all starry-eyed as he excitedly predicts she will be a lawyer in the future. Koharu turns tomato red, clarifying that she just saw a related video on YouTube. Well, YouTube University works wonders. Next, she confirms with Izumi whether they will be good friends from now on, and he affirms readily. She flashes him a creepy smile while thanking him, leaving Izumi baffled and questioning if he said something weird. Poor guy, he's stuck with a mysterious package. Good luck, Izumi. Meanwhile, Koharu still wonders if she's trapped in a dream, but she's hopeful. Maybe this time, she'll do what she never dared to before. Who knows? Maybe she'll even win the lottery. Determined to change her bleak future, she holds on to that hope. Later, when the teacher asks for nominations for class representative, the room erupts into hushed whispers. One bespectacled boy suggests Koharu's name as the best candidate for the position. One by one, all the classmates vote in her favor. Koharu is completely shocked. She is like, wait, how did I get elected without campaigning? To her surprise, everyone raises their hands in her favor, including Yuko. Koharu is tearful since, for the first time in her life, the big blockage of her high school life has been finally lifted. Izumi freaks out on seeing her crying and guesses innocently whether she is forced to become a CR. Told you, she is a mystery package. Later, when Koharu is walking down the corridor, someone calls her from behind. She turns around and is surprised to find their homeroom teacher, Ens Tanaka, wanting to talk to her. She mentions that she also requires a vice class rep and apologizes for informing her now. Great, now she gets to delegate stress to someone else. She explains that in this way, Koharu won't go through the hassle of attending every meeting. She wonders whether she knows someone trustworthy and urges her to make the decision as soon as possible. A fretful Koharu keeps on banging her mind about figuring out the right person for the position. If overthinking was a job, she would be CEO by now. Izumi is her obvious choice, but he is usually busy with club activities. She even thinks about having a class meeting but then sinks into blues again, realizing that who would want to work with her directly. She is aware that she doesn't have any friends or people whom she can trust, and finding the right person will be so agonizing for her. Making friends is easy, until you actually try to do it. Suddenly she feels as if someone is secretly staring at her. She frantically looks around here and there but finds no one. She is quite puzzled, thinking that probably she is imagining things. No, this is what overthinking does. Unknown to her, a disturbed Yuko gazes at her from a distance and then walks away. Later that night, Koharu's mom calls her for dinner. Her parents are quite startled when she excitedly joins them and then recites grace before starting the meal. Breaking news: a teenager voluntarily interacts with parents. Next, she chews delightfully, heartily thankful for the freshly cooked warm meal. She realizes that when one is in high school, they don't reckon the good things they return to at home. For instance, having a hearty meal with their parents. She notices that the food tastes a lot better when having with family. She musters up her courage and expresses her gratitude to her mother for preparing such a delicious meal every day. Her mother is greatly puzzled and wonders whether she has left the dark cult of priests. When she expresses her ignorance, her mother makes a shocking revelation that before a meal she always prayed in German. What? She has been blessing her food in a foreign language this whole time. Later, a distressful Koharu plops on her bed, unable to hold her tears. She cannot believe how kind her mother has always been to her despite her weird ways. Suddenly her phone buzzes and she is surprised to receive an email at this time. Emails at night? Either good news or a scam. It is Izumi wanting to call her. She instantly uprights herself, quickly responding to him. While waiting, she unconsciously stares at the cloudy dark sky and is curious whether normal high schoolers have ordinary nights like these, since they are usually found in groups, and here she is out romanticizing loneliness. Suddenly her phone blares deafeningly to a classic melody, and an abashed Koharu realizes that her ringtone is set to Beethoven's Symphony No. 9. She quickly receives the phone, and when Izumi inquires about her present situation, she is flushed with awkwardness. Nothing says cool teenager like a 200-year-old ringtone. It occurs to her that she is a 35-year-old woman in reality and is being called by a youngster at this time of the night. She is drenched in sweat due to the guilty pleasure she is feeling right now. Meanwhile, Izumi is all flowers and stars when he hears her voice. Hold up. Is this a high school drama or a midlife crisis? However, a 35-year-old unemployed Koharu is going through a guilt trip, realizing that this is really a bad idea to respond to him. But then she gets a reality check that somehow even she is trapped in a 15-year-old's body at the moment. She hesitantly covers up her unease by mentioning that talking on the phone is quite different from meeting in person. Great, she sounds like a wise grandma trapped in a teenager's body. She inquires whether something happened. Izumi makes a pleasant revelation that the person who defamed him by posting his grad photos personally apologized through an email, along with the reason that made them commit such a crappy act. Next, he mentions that person's polite request to change from their worthless self. Ah yes, the classic "I ruined your life, but I've grown" speech. Izumi expresses his gratitude to her since all of this was made possible through her magical words. He is about to hang up after making his point, but Koharu surprisingly interrupts that the matter is not over yet. She explains that even if the matter gets cold, those who are targeted keep on hurting. In short, he can forgive, but he can't forget the cringe. She stares aimlessly at the sky and mentions that the scars given by harsh words and behaviors are never healed. Izumi is bewildered to learn her thoughts. She keeps on probing him whether he is really okay with his defamation. No, I am just doing a crash course on emotional damage management. Izumi is deeply touched by her concern and the way she helped him that day. He declares that he will not forget her kindness in his whole life. He excitedly thanks her again and is about to blurt out the 3 magic words in his euphoric state, when in time he clasps his mouth, deeply ashamed by his thoughts, that moment when your brain is faster than your emotions. Koharu is very much confused about his abrupt silence. Unknown to her, Izumi slaps himself for even thinking of committing such a blunder. On the other side, Koharu suspects something is off, but the latter assures her that everything is fine. Role reversal. Now he is acting like a mystery package. Soon, he hurriedly hangs up, and she guesses that maybe his parents arrived and he doesn't want to talk in front of them. A flushed and slightly bruised Izumi vows to be careful next time. Koharu is all charged up as she feels that talking to younger people electrifies her. She should put professional life coach on her resume. She makes up her mind that the next day she will greet the person sitting next to her. She even plans to put all her effort into making tons of friends so that in the end she can have an amazing, dazzling high school life. The next morning, while walking down the school, Izumi bombards her with a sudden query about whether she has a boyfriend. Easy boy. Such pop-ups can give one a heart attack. Now that was quite unexpected for her, so the water spurted out of her mouth. She quickly refutes, believing that it is impossible and no one would like to have her even on the other side of the earth. Izumi playfully teases her for acting like an elementary schooler and states that it is really cool to have one. Breaking news. Boy gives terrible dating advice. He makes a shocking statement about her being quite popular. Koharu stares at him in disbelief, and he thinks she is being too humble, as she was voted by the whole class to be the class rep. With full confidence, Koharu mentions that since they hang out together so much, people probably think they are a couple, so there is no way anyone will approach her, so here the booking is strictly closed. Izumi gazes at her blankly as she opens her locker. Out of the blue, she finds a paper chit addressed to her, and it is written that someone will be waiting for her at 4 p.m. behind the gym. Both Izumi and Koharu are deeply puzzled by that enigmatic message, and here another mystery unfolds. Koharu jumps out of her skin in sheer fright, wondering whether someone is challenging her for a tussle. She gets panic attacks thinking that those she accused in her speech yesterday are probably trying to avenge her, as people tend to hold grudges. Izumi is concerned by seeing her reaction and then calmly explains that somebody is trying to confess their feelings. It could be actually her long-lost twin sister or a very aggressive sales agent. But Koharu is not sure since she imagines someone confessing for a bet or to poke fun at her. She expresses her concern to him about her suspicion of being a victim of some cheesy truth or dare. A puzzled Izumi could not think of anyone being so vicious unless she had offended the school's cafeteria lady for her spaghetti. Next, she pictures herself getting strangled by a big bully, manipulated by some jealous lass, and exclaims that a strange person might want to confess to her then. Izumi is amused when she mentions that no normal confession can be made in front of her, or rather, no one would like to make any. Her self-esteem is running downhill at the speed of light. Still, she feels that problems may arise if she doesn't answer that message. Izumi assures her that if any unfortunate situation arises, he is just a call away. Instantly, Koharu pictures him rushing towards her, making the bully and his wench run away with his killer looks. However, he points out that if someone is there to make a serious confession, then he will not intrude. Great, now she's starring in an action romance movie in her head. Koharu is thoroughly relieved and expresses her gratitude for his thoughtfulness. Quite later, when school is over, Izumi is astonished to see Koharu rush out immediately. This is it. The moment when she either gets love or loses a kidney. Koharu walks firmly through the corridor, determined to take action. She decides to check the writer's appearance from a distance and then develop countermeasures. She plans to be a little later than her usual time to do excessive thinking. She is aware that she will face consequences for being late, but she is willing to take the risk because nothing says prepared like showing up late on purpose. A satisfied look appears on her face since she has been planning this the whole day. She deduces from the message, "I'll be waiting," that the caller might arrive a few moments earlier than 4 p.m., so smartly she decides to arrive half an hour earlier. She is prepared to face any penalty from the caller for her slackness. By the way, Koharu, the local police department, is looking for some shrewd cops. She is relaxed that if something worse happens, Izumi is there to back her up. Soon, a fully prepped-up, macho woman Koharu arrives at the meeting spot, laced with her multi-layered approach. A shocked voice startles her. It belongs to none other than Yuko, who is fully alarmed to see her beforehand, both of them standing there like two characters in a detective drama who weren't expecting each other. There is an awkward silence between the two, with Yuko staring at an abashed Koharu quite grimly. Koharu breaks the ice by asking Yuko whether she called her to this place. When she affirms, a distressed Koharu's imagination starts running wild again, thinking that she is probably here to confess. Hold your horses, girl, she's probably here to ask for a pencil or a mafia deal. Yuko gets hysterical for being perceived incorrectly and then apologizes for her odd personality. She admits that she has a weird way of jumbling up her messages, which usually gives mixed signals to others. In her nervousness, she keeps on apologizing to Koharu without meeting her gaze. At this point, Koharu is debating whether this is a secret code for something. Koharu tells her not to apologize, as even she lacks communication skills, just like Yuko, and she can sense her feelings as well. Mustering up all her courage, Yuko confesses that she has been the main culprit all along, exposing Izumi's graduation pictures and throwing insults at her. She regrets her actions because Izumi has always been so kind to her. Phew. So this wasn't a love confession, it was a crime confession? A big realization came to her after Koharu's impressive speech that made her reflect on her wrongdoing. Yuko is left with nothing but regrets. She bows in front of her, expressing her gratitude and apology at the same time. The classic combo: sorry I ruined your life, but thanks for the TED Talk. After unburdening herself, Yuko hastily decides to leave a stunned Koharu behind. But abruptly, Koharu grabs her sleeve. Yuko tearfully begs her to let go, but Koharu pulls her into a tight embrace. Yuko is shocked beyond her imagination, but Koharu holds her close. Is this a forgiveness hug or a WWE move? Koharu makes a miserable confession that she has been scared all this time and wanted to give up. Next, she lauds her courage for showing up and talking to her. Yuko is unable to hold back her tears and breaks down, and just like that, this went from a crime drama to a heartfelt K-drama. After a while, upon discovering Yuko's keenness to change herself, Koharu offers her the position of vice class representative. She explains that sometimes she is unavailable to organize class events after school, so she would be glad to collaborate with her. Yuko stares at her in a stupor, so she guesses that Yuko is probably not confident in communication. Wait, the poor girl is still recovering from that shocking hug. Koharu grabs her hands in assurance, stating that the collaboration will work and that she trusts her completely. Rivers begin to flow from Yuko's eyes when Koharu declares that they both should change together. Later, Miss Tanaka gleefully acknowledges their collaboration. She guesses that they must be getting along quite well since they both came to her holding hands. Even the teacher is shaddily sweet here. She specifies that Yuko will be reporting to Koharu. Both girls embarrassingly let go of each other's hands, realizing the awkwardness of the situation. Meanwhile, Izumi is curious about the outcome of Koharu's secret meeting, so he quickly messages her, "Sorry, Izumi, the place is taken. Snoop somewhere else now." The next morning, a starry-eyed Koharu checks out her phone and feels a sense of euphoria on finally acquiring some school friends on her contact list, namely Izumi and Yuko. She recalls that earlier her contact list only had family members and no one else. Suddenly, Yuko appears in front of her and she pleasantly greets her. She almost bows like she is meeting the queen, but thankfully she stops herself just in time. Quite hesitantly, Yuko wonders whether Koharu would like to go out with her on Sunday. Koharu readily agrees, and they decide to discuss the details later. Yuko leaves, stating that she is really looking forward to their meetup. Koharu nods, but internally, she's already panicking about what to do for 5 whole hours in public. The whole time, Koharu is perturbed about their get-together, wondering what they will be doing. Still, she feels that uncanny joy as finally, she will be going out like a normal high schooler. She is anxious to pick out clothes for their girly date. She remembers her wardrobe screams fashion disaster louder than a fire alarm. Later, when she checks out her bizarre outfit consisting of a newspaper print t-shirt with an enormous danger sign pasted in front, along with a tattered, mismatched pair of bottoms, she groans in misery since all the clothes in her closet are super cringed and male-oriented. She wonders whether she had been this cheesy in her past life. She suddenly remembers that she has some cash from New Year's and she can spend it on new clothes. It's either buy new clothes or show up looking like an escaped circus performer. She boils in frustration since she is completely clueless about where they will be heading to, like a karaoke bar, bowling alley, or a game center. Also, she is not aware of this new place. In her previous life, she had never been an extrovert and didn't know what lies outside. She had lived by one rule: if it's not on my way to school, it doesn't exist. She literally freaks out upon realizing that websites for the above places didn't exist in 2007 when things weren't fully digitized. She gets panic attacks thinking that she is completely unaware of getting into those places. She nearly has a nervous breakdown wondering if she is thrown out or not allowed to enter. "Sorry, ma'am, we don't allow time travelers from 2027. She imagines the bouncer saying she cannot bear humiliating herself in those hip places, but then recalls how Yuko is looking forward to their date. Quite later, she decides to call Izumi, who is taken aback by her sudden call. He anxiously wonders about her well-being, Koharu calling first. Something is either very wrong or the world is ending. An abashed Koharu requests him to explain how kids nowadays normally spend time when they are out with friends. Izumi finds her question quite puzzling, so she reveals that Yuko and she are going out on Sunday, and she is completely clueless about it. She expresses her anxiety that if she remains ignorant, she will embarrass everyone. If you are so tech-savvy, then there is a thing called Google. She requests him to teach her basic communication tactics. Izumi smiles and suggests going out the next day for a rehearsal. Koharu was not expecting this, so she confirms with him whether he will be spending time with her the next day. Wait, so this is a practice hangout for a real hangout? Are there exams too? Izumi affirms, mentioning that he will show her around the karaoke bar and the gaming arcade. Next, she wails about her other woe. Like every finicky teenager, she has nothing to wear. He assures her that he will help her pick out suitable outfits. Koharu's social life is nearly exploding. He quickly devises a plan that they will meet the next day at 10 a.m. at the train station closest to the school. Koharu excitedly agrees and expresses her gratitude. Izumi's sister has been eavesdropping on their conversation, and she expresses her curiosity. The nosy Parkers are present everywhere like mosquitoes. Izumi explains that Koharu is the only friend he had in elementary school, and they are going out the next day. Next, he wonders whether she has any fashion magazines. His sister condemns him for being annoying the whole time and then sweetly asking for favors. "Oh, so now you need me? Where was this energy when I asked you to do the dishes?" She demands something nice in return. On the other hand, Koharu loses her marbles again, realizing that her super cringe clothes are the only ones she has for her meet-up with Izumi the next day. However, Izumi is having delicious dreams about his almost date with Koharu the next day. Meanwhile, she is having nightmares about wearing that newspaper shirt in public. The next morning, when Koharu reaches the station, she finds Izumi already waiting for her. She embarrassingly shows herself in a baggy sweatshirt with bizarre monos and sleeve designs along with loose-fitted pants. Surprisingly, Izumi appears awestruck by her sense of style, which is just like she was back then. Either he really appreciates nostalgia, or his eyesight needs immediate medical attention. Still, she apologizes for dressing like a clown to meet him. However, Izumi insists that those clothes suit her. Koharu knows that he doesn't mean it, but she will reform her wardrobe anyway. Step 1 to upgrading her wardrobe. Never let Izumi compliment her fashion choices again. Still embarrassed about her appearance, she loudly thanked him in advance. Izumi stares at her for a moment and then announces that he won't let this rehearsal be a drag, but they will have fun together. Next, they walk into a departmental store where a sales lady welcomes them. Koharu's battle with social anxiety begins now. Boss level, a friendly store employee. Koharu becomes a nervous wreck and finds finding difficult to talk to the lady. Izumi helps her by pointing out that buying outfits off the display or with help is completely normal. Shivering uncontrollably out of fear, she presents a stack of banknotes to the lad, explaining that she is unaware of the prices. The sales lady just met a rare species, the take-all-my-money customer. Next, she begs the lady to help her out in this dilemma. Within the blink of an eye, the ordinary woman becomes a dazzling superwoman ready to help her out. A relieved Koharu has never found anyone so beautiful. Forget fashion advice. This woman deserves a cape and a theme song. In no time, Koharu is dressed like a doll in overalls, thigh-highs, baggy jeans, and a trench coat in separate rounds. The sales lady enthusiastically insists that all outfits fit her like a glove. When she is done, the sales girls are all worn out, but being professional is their duty, and I don't blame them. They survived a hurricane named Koharu. As soon as she comes out of the trial room, Izumi is bedazzled by her amazing transformation. He exclaims in delight, lauding her new look and claiming that it suits her better. Koharu apologizes for keeping him waiting for so long and also feels famished. The real challenge? Finding a way to eat without spilling on her brand new outfit. He suggests that they eat at the karaoke bar, which offers mostly snacks. Izumi is oblivious to the admirable glances thrown towards him by young, throbbing hearts, so the background extras are forming an unofficial fan club for Izumi. After a while, they hit the gaming arcade. She is stunned to see an enormous number of plushie characters to be given as rewards. He diligently wins a game and presents a plushie to her. As she hugs the soft toy affectionately, he watches her happily. The real winner here? The plushie, now getting unlimited cuddles. While enjoying other games, he questions her about her day. An electrified Koharu exclaims that she feels a lot energized and now understands why people love going out. As night falls, they head home, and she had so much fun that she didn't realize time passed so quickly. Thankfully, she has officially joined the Leaving the House Isn't That Bad club. Her mind is still boggling around as she can still hear the sounds of arcade in her head. A perturbed Izumi offers that next time they can go to a quieter place, but she quickly refuses, stating that she feels like she has been in a happy dream forever. She continues that she had so much fun buying clothes and trying her best to communicate, so no more fairy tales. Koharu's version of a dreamland includes neon lights and claw machines. The best part is that she is able to share the beautiful time with him. A dumbfounded Izumi stares at her. They both walk so close to each other that their hands nearly brush against each other. Movie moment alert. Slow motion, romantic music, everything. In the heat of the moment, he blurts out that he doesn't want to go home. As soon as those words come out of his mouth, he clasps it tightly with his hand. While she stares at him, shocked, she anxiously probes him whether he doesn't like it there. Alert. Hidden mystery mode activated. He gazes at her agonizingly. She fretfully tries hard to recall what actually happened to Izumi and whether he had unusual circumstances at home that she wasn't aware of. As she knocks her brains out, Izumi, on a sudden impulse, tries to kiss her. The romance meter just hits 100%, but reality decides to crash the party. But an ignorant Koharu jumps excitedly at getting a call from Yuko and realizes that she has received 8 emails from Yuko. Poor Izumi is unconsciously tossed back into the air. Quite humiliated, he calls out to her to end their meeting here. Nothing kills the mood like an inbox explosion from your bestie. He blurts out with a forced smile that there is nothing wrong with his home and she shouldn't be concerned. She is shocked at his sudden outburst, but then gets busy with Yuko's call. She apologizes to her for not responding earlier and begins to plan their meeting the next day. Told you, Izumi, you're the second fiddle here. Meanwhile, a flushed Izumi runs away as far as he can from her. But then, at one point, he turns around to glance at her, happily chatting away. Their gazes meet, and she mouths a big thank you to him while waving wildly. He stares at him with glassy eyes, and the waves back frivolously. Somewhere in the distance, his broken heart is playing the world's tiniest violin. Izumi races off without turning back. He is very upset by the sudden attack made unconsciously by Koharu despite having a crush on her. Meanwhile, a relaxed Koharu is bonding well with Yuko. She explains that she isn't ignoring her but just rehearsing about how to get along with her efficiently. Meanwhile, a distressed Izumi is rehearsing how to recover from emotional damage. Sunday arrives when Koharu is all decked up to meet Yuko and gives the whole credit to Izumi for prepping her up and making her devise a flawless layout for the day. She recalls the fun things she did yesterday while he was coaching her about many new things. She decides to give the whole hip experience to Yuko in return and has planned for a movie followed by a trip to the photo booth. Koharu is now officially the CEO of Friendship Planning Inc. But when Yuko arrives, she gets her first panic attack dramatized by a sudden gust of wind. Even Yuko is slightly jittery because she will be having her very first high school girls' day out with Koharu. Koharu cheerfully greets her, awed by Yuko's adorableness. Meanwhile, the wind is clearly auditioning for a dramatic anime opening scene. Soon they decide to head towards the movies. Soon they select the most happening movie, whose novel sold like hotcakes. Koharu is super excited to see its movie adaptation, although she's already prepared to yell. The book was better. Halfway through the film, the girls are shocked to see a mob in front of the ticket counter. Yuko decides to get some snacks and instructs Koharu to get them the seats. She plans to get a large popcorn for them to share, and then Koharu mentions that she would like oolong tea to go with it. Koharu dives into the sea of moviegoers, rudely pushed by someone from behind. Meanwhile, Yuko instructs her to email if she gets the seats. Koharu is yelled at by the same obnoxious person for standing in his way. Some people are born to ruin movie nights. Poor Koharu cannot help it since the whole place is jam-packed. Her eyes sparkle in excitement when she finally makes it to the ticket counter. Also, she feels that she is confident enough to communicate with the counter person and intends to get the best seats for Yuko. Little did she know, she was about to experience the ultimate betrayal. Front row seats. To her disappointment, only some single seats and a double seat in the front row are available. Later, the girls are seated in front of the big screen, having a lot of difficulty watching the movie. Quite anxiously, she notices that Yuko is not talking to her, so she plans to apologize to her later. By the way, it's hard to have a conversation when your neck is at a 90-degree angle. When a fight scene comes in which a character rapidly shoots out bullets, Koharu panics due to the blaring noise and accidentally knocks over the large popcorn tub on the floor. She miserably whispers an apology to Yuko, and the latter helps her clear some of it. Yuko suggests not eating the spilled popcorn and just putting the bucket on the floor. Yuko is like, there goes $1,000,000 popcorn ruined by obnoxious noise pollution. Next, they continue with the movie, but Koharu notices that she is unable to concentrate on the movie and her mind delves into a flashback. It was her second day of the field trip, and everyone in the class was told to form groups and do whatever they would like to do together. Koharu also formed a group with 3 other people, and one of them bossily mentioned that since they lived here, they would decide what to do. Democracy? Never heard of it. Koharu pulled out a manual stating that even she had done some research on the place before they came, and some of the places had bad reviews. The members stared at her as if she were from some other planet, and then a boy rudely snatched away the manual from her hand. They went through it, mocking every word and calling her a goofball. Congratulations, Koharu. You have unlocked the rare skill, being too prepared. She hesitantly insisted that she actually worked on it beforehand, but the group distanced her, deciding to read the atmosphere instead. They suggested she do nothing as she was useless. She is brought back from that humiliating memory by Yuko, who informs her that the movie has reached the end. The real horror movie was Koharu's past trauma. It is pouring cats and dogs when they come out of the movie complex. Yuko reveals that the whole day she has been flustered. Also, she couldn't comprehend the movie as well. An abashed Koharu throws a sneaky glance at her, thinking how the trip didn't go as smoothly as she planned. Yup, rehearsals are not enough. 1 or 2 final exams are a must. She weakly lets out an apology when Yuko yells and curses at some random boorish guy who earlier misbehaved with Koharu. She furiously hoped that he would die. Coincidentally, the same guy passes by them, and an unaware Yuko keeps on throwing insults at him. That guy just unlocked a new fear, Yuko's wrath. Later, she apologizes, blushing furiously, thinking that she went quite overboard. To Yuko's astonishment, Koharu burst into a fit of laughter, proclaiming that Yuko was so polite while lashing out at the guy. Next, she admits that even she didn't catch that nonsensical movie so well. Who needs the movie when the real entertainment is happening outside? She pours out her heart that whenever she tries to do something right, she always fails. Yuko consoles her that her intentions are never ill and sometimes things are so unexpected. Both stare at each, sharing that magical moment, and then burst into blooming smiles. The award for Best Accidental Comedy Duo goes to these two. Instantly, Yuko hovers her coat over her head and insists they should start running toward the arcade for the photo booth. Koharu follows, and both trot toward the arcade in the downpour, making funny sounds in mischief. On reaching the photo booth, Koharu confesses to Yuko that at first, she thought she had to act skillfully to enjoy their meetup. Life lesson: overthinking is the enemy of fun. Yuko acts as if Koharu has grown horns. Even Koharu admits that saying that aloud seems so ridiculous to her now. However, now she has realized that it is very important to do whatever one's heart desires and create a long-lasting, memorable experience. She expresses her gratitude to Yuko for staying put with her all their trip. Flushingly, Yuko suggests that they should put all their feelings in the photo instead of announcing them on their faces. So now they are certified besties, minus Izumi. The next morning, when Koharu opens her pencil box, her face breaks into a dazzling smile when she glances at the beautiful photo of Yuko and herself, tagged best friends, reminding her that they should do their movie trips together often. And thus, the tradition of chaotic yet heartwarming movie trips is born. The next morning is bright and cheerful as Koharu gets ready for school. After telling her mother goodbye, she heads out. On the train, she chats pleasantly with Izumi. When they arrive at school, the two quickly become the center of attention. Many students eye Koharu with envy for being so close to such a handsome guy. Yuko approaches them and asks to talk to Koharu about something for the student assembly. She politely borrows Koharu from Izumi for a moment. Izumi jokes that working so early in the morning must be tough, but adds that it's still fun. Yuko agrees, thanking them a little awkwardly. Koharu, overjoyed, hugs her warmly. Embarrassed, Yuko squirms and tells her she's being suffocated and that she doesn't need to call her by her full name. But Koharu is simply thrilled. She never imagined her high school days could feel this happy again. Later, while checking a list of unfamiliar names like Toragami, Koharu wonders if they were put there by mistake. Yuko remembers seeing Toragami Seina at the entrance ceremony, but he hasn't shown up to school since then. She assumes that he is dropping out since it is already May, but Koharu is not convinced, as she believes that there might be a valid reason for him not attending school. Yuka explains that since they are already done with compulsory education, from here on it's up to the person to make the choice that is most convenient to them. Out of the blue, Koharu brightens up like a million stars and throws Yuka a series of compliments to her annoyance. Time passes, and it is home time. The girls exchange goodbyes, and Koharu is on her way back home. In the meantime, Yuka's words echo in her mind and disturb her more. She analyzes that if Toragami purposely chose not to attend school, then it might be okay, but things could be different. Instantly, her previously isolated self, huddled in a blanket, flashes before her, and she doubts that Toragami seemed like the same person on that day. Immediately it occurs to her that she cannot overlook this matter because even Toragami might be too scared to attend school, just like she was before. She anxiously turns around and sprints back towards school. Quite later, she is standing in front of a strange house, hesitantly trying to rehearse what she would be saying in front of him. She reasons that she is only here to deliver the papers piled up on his desk, as she has already checked with the teacher. Still, she is afraid that she might be doing something illegal and could be termed a delinquent. However, deep down, she considers the possibility of a child crying in pain behind the doors. She brings herself down to press the doorbell just to tell him that he shouldn't blame himself for anything. On the other hand, Yuka catches up with 2 students and confirms with them whether they went to the same middle school as Toragami. When the duo appears baffled, she inquires about his absence from school. They reveal that at their junior high, he was practically a celebrity, a top delinquent tied to a notorious gang. He'd been with them through fights so intense he nearly died. They can't believe they ended up at the same high school as him, even though he did study a little. They warn her that it's best not to get too involved with him. A relieved Yuko smiles and decides to send a warning email to Koharu. But before that can happen, Koharu has already pressed the doorbell. Instantly, her phone beeps, indicating the arrival of an email, but at the same time, the door opens. A big and burly boy with a mean face stares at her with a frown. He coldly inquires about her identity, while a completely drained Koharu stares at him in sheer terror. Exactly the kind of warm welcome every anxious girl dreams of when showing up uninvited. Toragami glares at her, and Koharu immediately bows, nervously blurting out that she's his class's president. She apologizes for showing up unannounced, then shakily offers the bag without meeting his eyes, explaining it's his piled-up classwork. She adds that she came because she was worried he might be getting bullied. Flustered, Koharu also offers the cake she brought and even warns him to eat less for his health. When she finally musters the courage to look up, 3 small faces are staring at her in curiosity. The silence quickly erupts into noisy, childish chaos, leaving Toragami wondering what would happen if he ever went to school. When the kids shriek with excitement over the cake, he snaps at them for tearing around the house and orders them to wash their hands. Koharu watches him, fascinated, her eyes drifting to the childish drawings decorating the walls. At the dining table, she learns that Toragami has 5 younger siblings, 2 sisters and 3 brothers. Soon, they all sit down to have the cake brought by Koharu. Nothing says family bonding like cake and a side of sibling bickering. However, his brothers are not very happy about the way he is cutting slices, so he curtly mentions that the youngest gets the biggest slice. Koharu observes all of them quietly and even notices Toragami's paternal behavior towards his siblings. Next, she inquires whether he is solely responsible for taking care of his siblings. He sighs and explains that he and his younger sister, Tsubaki, take care of them. He reprimands his stupid dad for being in debt and then chickening out. Automatically, his mother became the guarantor for those loans, and for this reason works day and night to support them. He reveals that he even got a part-time job through a friend. He now believes high school is his least priority. Oh, high school priorities? Every teenager's dilemma of balancing them with random responsibilities. He mentions how some people came to check on him after the entrance ceremony, but it was usually in the morning when he was still in bed. That's why he couldn't inform them about his well-being. He assures her not to worry since he had already informed the teacher when he was leaving school. Later, when it is time for Koharu to leave, everyone comes out to see her off. They all thank her for the cake, and she expresses her gratitude to them for their hospitality, even though she came unannounced. She is greatly shocked when Toragami snootily points out that she didn't have anything worth stealing either. Nevertheless, Koharu loves his lively house and lauds him for being a good brother. He irritably urges her to go home. Tsubaki condemns him for not escorting Koharu home, but he shuns away her suggestion. Meanwhile, the other children cheerfully bid her goodbye. As she walks home, Koharu admits that Toragami is a really kind-hearted boy, despite his first intimidating impression. Suddenly remembers the email that she received from Yuko earlier. She quickly opens it, and her face is drained of blood when she learns about Toragami being a delinquent and a gangster. Suddenly, someone addresses her as Big Sister. She turns around and is surprised to find Toragami's younger brother, Asahi, panting hard. She anxiously wonders whether something happened. He requests that she take his brother to school with her and reveals that Toragami had a really rough time in junior high. He gloomily adds that he has never seen his brother smile before, not even once. It is revealed that Toragami got involved with some crooks at the end of his 3rd year, but he detached from them instantly, and when he reached high school, he actually smiled. For this reason, Asahi is keen to send him back to school. However, recently, they learned about their father's debts. That's why he decided to quit school and take care of them. But instantly, Koharu highlights the fact that his brother sleeps during the day and whether he is okay with that. In the spur of the moment, she firmly makes a decision. The next morning, Asahi forcibly awakens a groggy Toragami, insisting that he is being called. Toragami irritably tells him to leave his arm and is curious about this surprise early morning call. He is astonished to find Koharu and Izumi spreading cheers at his door. A determined Koharu states that from now onwards, he can sleep at school. So high schools are turning into kindergartens, having nap times. Toragami stares at them as if they have grown horns. However, later, the students turn their heads in bewilderment on seeing the trio. They cannot believe that a Yankee like Toragami is attending their school. Meanwhile, some are curious about why Koharu is roaming around with two guys. On the other hand, Toragami groans in frustration, claiming that he is already feeling too sleepy. Koharu cheerfully encourages him to go through the homeroom, assuring him that he will be totally fine. She bucks him to attend school so that he can graduate. With a frown, he sarcastically mentions that this all sounds great for the future, but right now, he is in dire need of money. Koharu reveals she got the location of Toragami's part-time job from Asahi and confirms that the school sits conveniently between his home and workplace, letting him rest until the last possible moment. Toragami quietly fumes at Asahi for leaking information. Koharu insists he should stay a full-time student, explaining that it's only May and they're all still freshmen, so transferring to a part-time schedule isn't ideal. Izumi jokingly offers to carry him to school every morning if waking up early is the issue. Koharu admits she naps in the nurse's office when things get overwhelming, though she's unsure what would happen if they went too often. Izumi suggests hiding in the janitor's room instead, while Koharu proposes asking teachers about using empty classrooms. Listening to them strategize on his behalf leaves Toragami speechless. Thoughts of his siblings flash through his mind, their voices thanking him for taking care of them and urging him not to worry anymore. Moved, he expresses his gratitude to Izumi and Koharu and asks them not to go to such lengths. If they really want to help, he says hesitantly, they can support him with his studies. Their faces light up at his change of heart. Soon they begin tutoring him day and night, helping him finally keep up. In the meantime, he is also attending his usual part-time job, and once got 5 minutes late. His senior expresses curiosity about his sudden lively demeanor and probes him about the reason. However, Toragami casually shrugs it off. Later that night, after work, he is approached by some of the gangsters, who grin menacingly at him, wondering about his well-being. The classic gangsters, showing up after a long day at work. What could possibly go wrong? One of them shows him a nasty gash, emphasizing how badly Toragami injured him. The other goon greedily fiddles with his bicycle, while the injured one blackmails Toragami to give him some more stuff as an apology. Suddenly, the goggled goon discovers a scribbled notebook on Toragami's bicycle and begins to flaunt it sinisterly. They break into a nasty laugh on seeing its title, Seina's Dedicated Notebook. They mock him for leaving their gang just to attend school, and that half of his notebook is written by a girl. To their astonishment, Toragami restrains them. Apparently, the notebook has been given to him by Koharu, so he warns them not to touch it. Surely that'll stop these guys in their tracks. He recalls how he had requested Koharu and Izumi to teach him, and how dedicatedly they had fulfilled his request. He remembers that the notebook was particularly prepared for him by Koharu, and so when the crooks maliciously hold it, he icily warns them not to touch it. They mock him further, and one of them scornfully reminds him that his attitude should be subdued, especially if he has to return someone's favor. With that, he raises his fist to punch Toragami. Due to the commotion outside, Toragami's employer anxiously comes out and yells at them. He sees two crooks harassing a frozen Toragami and lashes out at them for mistreating one of his employees. Instantly, he grabs one of them and gives him a vigorous shaking, along with a nasty warning. The two brats swiftly run for their lives. Who knew Toragami's employer had a hidden talent for shaking down bullies? A worn-out Toragami expresses his gratitude to him, but the employer is astonished at him for not fighting back. A bruised Toragami hugs his notebook tightly towards his chest and explains that he left all the bad things behind. He believes that fighting back would have made him the same person he was before. The employer offers to live with him, but he instantly refuses. The next morning, both Koharu and Izumi are shocked to see his battered face, so he avoids their gaze and reasons that he fell from the stairs. Suddenly, Asahi calls him out from behind and apprehensively asks him whether he really fell. He is suspicious about his brother falling back into the dangerous stuff, but Toragami pats his head assuringly and explains that he spaced out and his legs got tangled. Obviously, that's a totally believable reason for a bruised face. Happens to everyone, right? Next, he surprises both Koharu and Izumi by calling them by their names. Looking at their overdramatic expressions, he rolls up his eyes and stops them from being so cringeworthy. At school, an exhausted Toragami yawns while waiting for the teacher, but suddenly he spots something and dashes out without saying anything. A startled Koharu stares after him, but at the same time, the teacher enters the class. The teacher announces that suspicious intruders have been spotted on school grounds. As a precaution, classes are cancelled, but the students must remain in their classroom for the time being. At once, the room erupts with excitement as everyone crowds around the windows, ignoring the teacher's attempts to calm them. They stare in shock at two Yankees tearing across the grounds on their bikes, engines roaring loud enough to shake the windows. The students buzz with excitement, wondering what's causing the deafening noise. Yuko, anxious, asks Izumi where Toragami and Koharu are, but Izumi is just as puzzled. Meanwhile, outside, a grim-faced Toragami stands before the bikers. The two delinquents sneer at him, mocking him for finally showing up. They sinisterly offer to have a long talk with him since, at the moment, their schedule is quite clear. They sarcastically probe him about whether he is having fun at school, but they exclaim that they are here to continue the tiff that was left unfinished last night and express their desire to thrash him till pulp. Astonishingly, Toragami kneels in front of them, places his head on the ground, and offers himself to be beaten as much as they want. The two rascals snort perilously at him and decide to run their two-wheelers over him. Instantly, a cloud of long black curls sways in the air, and a furious Koharu comes in front of Toragami, shielding him from the goons. The only thing standing between Toragami and his two-wheel torture is Koharu's heroic entrance. The goons roar their bikes fiercely, urging Koharu to get out of their way, but she doesn't budge an inch. They furiously ask Toragami about the foolish girl blocking their way. One of them insanely yells at her, forcing her to go back to her comfy class. He emphasizes that Toragami belongs to the streets just like them, and there is no reason for him to attend school. Clearly, blocking a gang member's path is just asking for a lecture on life choices. Koharu defies them, pointing out that there is a reason for not only Toragami to go to school, but for everyone, even if one doesn't want to. She recalls how her well-wishers pulled her out of a distressful situation, and she screams her heart out that when one spends their time in isolation, before they know, time has caught up to them. So that's why, even through someone's support, it is okay to return to school. Toragami stares at her in a stupor. She gallantly declares herself forever available for her friends, trying to do better, and for her supportive family. She even offers to help those two brats and encourages them to talk to her. But the goons are more aggravated and are not all moved by her speech. One of them refuses to become the kid who can be talked down to. The classic, "I don't care about your inspirational speech, I just want to ride my bike over you" move. As he angrily tries to zoom over, planning to kill both of them, a sleek black car drives in and thwacks him to the ground. Everyone around is frozen silent. A strange man comes out of it and apologizes for the rowdy behavior of his son and his friend. The goggled goon nervously addresses him as Mr. Sano. The man grabs both the rascals and roughly pins them to the ground, warning them not to trouble civilians. He digs their heads further into the ground and compels them to apologize, and two little meek apologies flutter in the air. Later, Mr. Sano places the two unconscious boys on his shoulders, planning to wake them up for further thrashing. A panic-stricken Koharu tries to stop him, hiding behind Toragami. Who wouldn't want to stop someone from carrying unconscious teens like a sack of potatoes? But Toragami steps out and expresses his gratitude to him. A puzzled Koharu stares at him inquisitively, so he explains that Mr. Sano is the twin brother of the manager of the place where he works. He explains his acquaintance with the two brats, that he has been working as a vanguard for their gang, and in return, they took care of him. But he assures her that now he is done with that shady life for good. Mr. Sano delivers his brother's message to Toragami that he has decided to triple his hourly wage and he needs to come for work on weekends only. When he expresses his astonishment, Mr. Sano refuses to answer that question and suggests consulting his brother for that. Koharu becomes emotional when the realization sinks in that now Toragami can earn enough money just like that. She tearfully reckons that finally he can live a normal life. The sweet joy of realizing that your friend can now afford to live a normal, non-gangster life, thanks to his new weekend shift. She appears thoroughly impressed, but the man casually remarks that his brother sells food, and Toragami's salary comes from serving food well. He assures her that it is a simple raise and nothing else. Out of the blue, he uncovers that Toragami appears older than he actually is, and by mistake, his brother hired a minor to work at night, which is illegal. Koharu groans in annoyance when she learns the truth. Mr. Sano explains that money is just a feeling for his brother and wants to give excess to those who are hardworking. Next, he throws a glance at Koharu and advises Toragami to protect that nice girl. Mr. Sano departs, leaving the duo at the mercy of their wrathful teachers. Later, in the student guidance room, both Toragami and Koharu appear completely drained. It is revealed that Ms. Tanaka had given them a good scolding for acting like adults despite being minors. Koharu understands that her anger comes from deep kindness, but still, she is a little upset. He stares at her keenly. She raises her head and assures her that even though she might seem a little unreliable as an individual, she will never give up on him. In the grand scheme of things, scolding from teachers is just another bump on the road to never giving up. She ascertains him with a smile that everyone will surely be on his side. He shyly gives her a thumbs up. Suddenly, she begins to shiver uncontrollably, realizing that the situation is getting on her nerves. Silently, he pulls her closer to himself and begins to pat her shoulder affectionately. Abruptly, he detaches himself and apologizes. He explains that his previous gesture was something that he would always offer to his siblings on instinct when they are shuddering or afraid. She hysterically screams that he just acted like a mother. When he appears shocked, she abashedly excuses herself for yelling instinctively. You can't have a heartfelt moment without comparing it to your friend's parenting style. A sudden chortle slips from his mouth. He smirks at her mischievously, wondering whether she is feeling shy or something. She stares at him in disbelief and remembers those little faces telling her that if their big brother smiles, then everything is fine. With that, even she breaks into a huge grin. Later, a tearful Yuko hugs her tightly, thinking she might have expired, and Izumi heaves a sigh of relief on seeing both of them intact. Later, while having a meal at a cafe, Yuko seriously points out that a lot of things are ahead of them, like their first midterm, but for now, she feels their hard work should be rewarded. For that reason, they all cheer for each other. She also adds that from now onwards, they can always hang out with Toragami after school. However, Toragami flatly blames Koharu and Izumi for dragging him there forcibly. Out of the blue, Koharu becomes serious, staring at her drink anxiously. Izumi notices that curiously. She smiles and explains that this is her very first outing with friends in a restaurant. She is so happy and believes that this moment will end when she finishes the drink. She's clearly living her best life in that first-time cafe magic, and it's hard not to feel a little nostalgic about orange juice. Her friends stare at her in astonishment. Toragami firmly advises her not to waste the money spent on that drink. Abashed, she quickly purses the straw between her lips. The taste of fine orange juice leaves her in a stupor. The trio is staring at her in bewilderment, each thinking the same, that she is finding the juice delicious. She quickly apologizes for keeping them waiting and urges them to dig into their food. Out of nervousness, she unconsciously pushes her fork towards the table's edge, and instantly, all three of them jump forward to save it from falling at the same time. Thoroughly relieved, she expresses her gratitude to them all. Next, she excuses herself to use the restroom. Their gazes follow her as she reaches the restroom. A stunned Toragami declares her a good person. It's always nice to realize that your friend is a decent human being, especially when you're still processing the fork disaster. A mischievous expression wavers on Izumi's face as he turns around towards him. Toragami is puzzled to see him smirk and understands that probably Izumi is too embarrassed to concur with his POV, and admits that they are all human beings after all. He looks away and doubts that it is probably quite easy for him to accept her goodness. Yeah, because admitting that someone is good feels like the most awkward thing to do, right? A flustered Izumi struggles to concur with his idea. Yuko smiles slyly and asks whether something happened between Koharu and Toragami in the student guidance room. Toragami's cheeks flush as the memory of that brief, heated embrace flashes through his mind, but he hurriedly denies it. Izumi scowls, clearly unconvinced. Toragami grows frantic, trying to defend himself until at last, avoiding their eyes, he admits that something did happen. He explains that Koharu had been trembling from panic, and because he felt responsible for what happened earlier, he gave her a small hug and gently patted her shoulder to calm her. Izumi stares at him in shock, wide-eyed, before finally blurting out that he used to hug Koharu 1,000,000 times back in elementary school. After making that ridiculous revelation, both Yuka and Toragami can clearly notice a sharp drop in Izumi's IQ due to jealousy. Of course, Izumi's logic is flawless. If you hug someone 1,000,000 times as a kid, it must count as totally okay when you're older, right? Thankfully, Koharu returns to the table and is delighted to see their parfaits already served. She exclaims she hasn't seen one since elementary school. She even finds Yuko's parfait quite delicious. Meanwhile, both guys stare at them, dumbstruck. Yuko offers her dessert to Koharu for tasting, but Koharu is thoroughly shocked when Yuko tries to spoon-feed her. She instructs her to open her mouth wide and then pops the spoon inside. Meanwhile, the stunned guys stare at those crazy girls. Koharu exclaims that she just loved the taste and offers hers to Yuko for tasting. Yuko triumphantly smiles at the boys, and soon the girls get busy in their chatter, followed by the two goofballs. Yuka confesses with a smile that he can never compete with a girl. Even an embarrassed Toragami cannot help thinking that there is an area that those boys can never enter, and then the bond between the two boys grows stronger after that event. One day, Koharu gets accidentally hit by a volleyball and silently curses the school's founder, who thought volleyball was a good idea. Reverted to her teen years, she realizes she's never been in shape and always avoids moving whenever possible. Lying in the infirmary, she worries about the upcoming sports tournament, recalling how she could never return the ball. Even as a young, energetic girl, she feels relieved knowing that as long as she doesn't hold the class back, a little practice will suffice. Suddenly, a loud commotion breaks out, and an energetic young man bursts into the room. He exclaims that within a month, a first-year student did something impressive and bravely dealt with a Yankee outside the school, and declares that the brave student is Koharu. Shocked, she wonders who he is. A self-proclaimed exercise enthusiast who actually avoids exercise. He puts his leg on the bedstand and introduces himself as Tachibana Hinoemon, a second-year student and heir to the Tachibana Mugen fighting dojo. He says he's here to meet a strong woman like her. Flexing dramatically, he reveals that he will participate in every event at the upcoming sports tournament and invites her to watch him play, flashing a huge smile. He mentions a volleyball match after school and tells her to come see him. Meanwhile, the nurse angrily asks about a damaged door. Tachibana politely apologizes and tells her to send the charges to the dojo. Koharu, shocked, recalls that she had this meathead as her senior in the past. Realizing he mentioned volleyball, she dashes to the court, thinking he could be a reference for her. When she arrives, she finds Tachibana playing volleyball like a pro, impressing everyone. Koharu is stunned, realizing he's far too skilled to use as her practice guide. The opposing team captain insists that in the next round, he is going to take Tachibana on his team for sure. Even Koharu is awestruck at his amazing playing skills and dejectedly realizes that there is no way she can use him as her reference. She spots another mediocre player and considers taking her for a reference. But when that girl throws the ball for a serve, it gets stuck up in the basketball stand, to her disappointment. If only Springy and Energetic came with a manual on how to actually move. Tachibana spots that and instantly climbs up towards the stand. Next, he swipes the ball from the stand in one smooth motion. The ball bounces off in the girl's arms, and a triumphant Tachibana salutes himself in a style. As he single-handedly clings to the grill like a monkey, the stunned players begin to capture that historic moment by using their phones. But he doesn't stop here and excitedly heads on for another sports practice, and his list is endless. Meanwhile, Koharu is frozen to her feet, completely shocked to see the miracle boy, Tachibana. Who needs a ladder when you've got Tachibana's superhero agility? She stares at him in awe, realizing that he is the person who has a sordid life and whom everyone can trust. She stares at the ball thoughtfully and then decides to take small baby steps. That is when Tachibana stops everyone and expresses his interest in knowing each of the players better. He believes this is important to become a better team, and for this reason, he invites everyone out for a meal. The other players give each other meaningful glances, and then one of them assures him that they all will be fine if he just gives his best shot. It's tough when your reference ends up being a human highlight reel, and you can barely serve a volleyball without sending it to the moon. He refuses Tachibana's invitation since he is caught up till the next tournament. At first, Tachibana stares at him blankly, and then realizes that they all want to use the practice time wisely. Tachibana teasingly calls the lad a coach. The guy chuckles and clarifies that all he wants Tachibana to go on a rampage, and they will surely win. Next, they push him towards the next game, baseball, and insist that he could be the pinch hitter. The others savagely plan to drag him to every sport, but a perplexed Tachibana spots Koharu standing all alone, carrying a ball. Classic Koharu move, pretending to practice just to watch his next performance. He wonders if she is practicing alone. Apparently, she is struggling to get it right, but then a thought appears in his mind that she is probably pretending to practice just because she couldn't wait until the tournament and is desperate to see his strength. He smirks, thinking about her audacity. Later, Koharu keeps on struggling with the ball. Meanwhile, he keeps on shining in baseball and other sports until it is 6 p.m. An exhausted Tachibana is content after another smashing day, since he got to interact with everybody as well. He is surprised to see the gym lights on and wonders whether someone left them on by mistake. But he is astonished to see a flustered Koharu still struggling with the volleyball. Spotting him, she flashes an embarrassed smile, admitting that she saw him playing all the sports. Baby steps, Koharu. Baby steps. If you can't serve, at least don't accidentally break something. Understanding that he is quite busy, she musters up her courage and requests him to give her some pointers about volleyball. Tachibana cannot believe that she lags in ball sports. With a smile, she admits being so bad that she feels like dying. Suddenly, he is transported into a flashback when, as a child, he was advised by an elder that he, being an heir to the family of the dojo, must know something about his family traditions. The elder clarifies that he has to support his companions so that they can walk alongside them proudly, and for that, he has to be strong. Rampage, you say? Rampage it is. The elder also indicated that when he finds his better half for marriage, they will share their weakness with each other, and together they will overcome them. At present, a shocked Koharu drops the ball when an excited Tachibana grabs her by the shoulders. He mentions that ever since childhood, he has hated shiitake mushrooms. He promises that he will make her a winner in the upcoming tournament, and in return, asks her to make shiitake mushroom dishes for him. His wacky request takes aback poor Koharu, so he hysterically repeats the self-acclaimed exchange offer. He frantically holds her hand and claims that in this way they will share each other's weaknesses and their bond will be strengthened. Unexpectedly, Izumi pops up and is quite baffled to see such an emotional scene at the gym. As he was expecting Koharu to be practicing, he tries to remain calm and wonders how long Tachibana has known Koharu. Grinning widely, Tachibana replies that he has come to know her only that day. Izumi begins to lose his mind on that revelation. All those elementary school memories that he spent with Koharu swirl around him. How long have you known her? A day? Tachibana excitedly mentions how desperately he wanted to meet the she-woman who had stood up to the Yankees. Next, he queries Izumi whether he is Koharu's friend. Izumi informs him that they are elementary school buddies. Tachibana becomes more animated as he wonders whether Izumi has an idea about the source of Koharu's insane mental strength. He is not ashamed to admit that he is kinda envious of Izumi for knowing her so well. Izumi sighs, realizing that Tachibana seems like a decent person, and indeed, Koharu always attracts good people. She attracts good people when they're not totally shocking her with their random emotional declarations. Koharu apprehensively calls out for their attention, declaring that she is in for a serious serve. She requests that they watch her. Soon, she tosses the ball in the air, stares at it intently, and then dramatically raises her fist, aiming to create history. Alas, the powerful fist deviates and punches in the open air instead, while the missed ball bounces away merrily. The guys stare at her in sheer shock, and upon realization, Koharu sighs and lowers her head dejectedly. She sarcastically wonders whether she can actually serve it over in the other court. What's that? A perfect serve to the wrong court? Oh, Koharu, you really nailed it this time. Izumi immediately looks away, but a super optimistic Tachibana animately assures her that she certainly can. He emphasizes that by the name of his dojo, the infinite Tachibana style, he will make her body so flexible that she will dance around freely before the tournament. With the same enthusiasm, he punches his fist in the air and declares that the training will commence the next day. The spirited fever catches Koharu as well, as she literally screams at Izumi about giving the best shot in the upcoming sports festival. Izumi smiles and wonders if he can come watch her practice, and with that, Koharu suddenly turns into a motivational speaker out of nowhere. With heavenly open-heartedness, Izumi allows him to come. The next day, Yuko expresses her astonishment on learning about this whole master-disciple affair. She reveals that despite Tachibana being an expert athlete, he never joins any club and is always training for martial arts at home. She even reveals that Tachibana is now a school mascot. She recalls girls cheering at him in the hallways all the time. A flustered Toragami blurts out that both Koharu and Tachibana have gone bonkers. Out of the blue, a chuckle slips out of Yuko's mouth. As both the guys stare at her inquisitively, she explains that Tachibana noticed Koharu despite being in a different grade. To her, he doesn't seem like a shady guy at all. Izumi agrees with her, and then, in the background, a blaring voice of Tachibana roars, encouraging Koharu. With fiery eyes, he urges her to do her best. On the other hand, Koharu blindly follows his instructions like a zombie, as he yells at her to open her eyes and watch the ball. The duo is so absorbed in their practice that they don't notice Izumi, Yuko, and Toragami standing on the door. Koharu, clearly zoning out and following directions like a pro-zombie, while Tachibana is in full cheerleader mode. Izumi advises that they shouldn't be disturbed at the moment and plans to surprise them with some juice later. So much for the uproar created by the duo, but Koharu remains disappointingly zero even while performing the basic serve. Later, the three friends offer some cold juice to both Tachibana and Koharu. Tachibana is elated at the thought that just a 2-month-old freshman would admire him so much. He truly believes everyone really needs him. He decides to train Koharu for now, and before heading home, he sneaks a peek in Class 2-4s to check on their practice. And suddenly, the 2-month-old freshman is now his biggest fan, because why not? He overhears one of the players mocking him for sucking up to the first year. Another player clarifies that he is just helping them because they asked him to, but the previous lad is upset because Tachibana skipped their practice due to that. One of them expresses doubt whether that can be called sucking up since Tachibana is quite popular. But the first player condemns him for defending him. He reminds them that they also refused his invitation to go out with him for a meal. He shows them the real picture that no one can actually keep up with that anime character energy of his, and that he sticks out like a sore thumb. The others gradually concur with his POV. Tachibana is thoroughly shocked to see the real faces of his friends. He has always thought that he is helping them out with his strength, but in reality, he was never a part of the team at all. Sometimes the truth hurts more than Tachibana's anime character energy can fix. Meanwhile, Koharu's efforts pay off as she finally manages to hit a powerful serve. At first, she appears stunned, but then tears well up in her eyes as she calls out to Tachibana. She exclaims in delight that she finally hit the ball and it went flying. She expresses her gratitude to him for sticking with her for so long. Tachibana expresses his delight, but she notices that his signature dazzle and vigor are missing. He calls it the day since it is getting pretty late. Meanwhile, his friends arrive from behind, complaining about some teacher. Tachibana freezes at their arrival, and then one of them inquires whether he will be skipping the second year's practice the next day as well. Tachibana affirms, explaining that he wants to refine Koharu's serve. His friend appears disappointed and wonders whether he actually means that. But then a meaningful smirk appears on his face. Instantly, they depart and exchange pleasantries. Next, Koharu also takes her leave, and while picking up her bag from her classroom, she has this uneasy feeling about Tachibana being upset about something. She guesses that it has something to do with his friends, who kinda seem bizarre to her. But then it occurs to her that if a tiff is going on, then his friends wouldn't have been talking to him. She thinks of probing him about that matter, but then shuns the idea, thinking that she might seem nosy. She suspects she might be overthinking, but she realizes that she should have taken his contact information. Suddenly, she spots him and brightens up. She is about to call him when she sees him staring at his friends, who are passing by at a distance without noticing him. One of them remarks about Tachibana turning over a new leaf because earlier he always insisted on accompanying them to grab food together or walk home. But he feels that lately he doesn't bother, and it is kinda annoying in its own way. Oh, he's so grown up now, huh? Too good for food runs and walks. What's next? Life coaching us too. Another one cheekily mentions that this is because they have been turning him down. A shocked Koharu can imagine how upset Tachibana might be on hearing those venomous words. It is then the sensible one asks the meanest of all, Takeuchi, to drop the matter, thinking that his bitterness might be the result of his losing first place in PE to Tachibana, despite being in the same class. Grinning menacingly, Takeuchi denies that allegation and reveals that he saw that first-year girl for the first time. He sinisterly mocks Koharu, claiming that there is no way her nerdy serve will ever land, and that Tachibana is only wasting his time. He is so lost in his euphoria that he accidentally collides with a tall and sturdy figure. He curses him furiously when Toragami coldly apologizes to him for not noticing a tiny dude like him. Next, he lands his gigantic hand on Takeuchi's head and roughly tousles it, trying to squeeze out his brains. Takeuchi yelps in sheer pain, so Koharu comes to his rescue and gently asks Toragami to pull off. Next, she thanks him for standing up for her. Takeuchi is shocked to see Tachibana standing behind her. Koharu addresses both Tachibana and Toragami and invites them to hang out at a family restaurant. She even decides to invite Yuko and Izumi if they are still on campus. Meanwhile, the losers stare, utterly speechless. Takeuchi just got crushed by Toragami, and all he's got is this expression, might need a new hobby buddy. But then, Takeuchi cheekily mocks Tachibana for being forcibly dragged off by the first years. Later, Tachibana's usual vigor returns on seeing a delicious parfait at Winky's. He cannot believe that he is actually on a high school detour to a family restaurant. He animatedly expresses his delight at meeting all four of them from the bottom of his heart. As he digs into the sumptuous dessert, Tachibana realizes that this time he was really hurt, because otherwise, he rarely got upset. Unconsciously, tears well up in his eyes, and he emotionally embraces Koharu, thanking her in hysterics. Wait, is Tachibana crying over a parfait? Dude's got big feelings for desserts. Izumi freaks out, screaming at him for overdoing it. Days pass, and finally the big day arrives. The teacher advises them to stay safe and give their best shot. Soon, the most awaited sports festival is declared open. The sports festival marks the advent of many excited athletes, including Izumi and Toragami, who participate in various sports. In the basketball match, a fully charged-up Tachibana can be seen knocking off the opponents by smashing 101 points against 33, leading second-year Class 4 to an unbeatable success. But astonishingly, as soon as the match ends, he vanishes from the scene and sprints off towards the second gym. It is revealed that a volleyball match is about to commence in the second gym, between first-year classes 3 and 4. Koharu musters up her courage to finally participate in it. Yuko calls her and encourages her to have fun. Koharu relaxes a bit and soon they spot Izumi and Toragami waving at them. They wave them back, and Izumi spiritedly informs her about Tachibana's presence and encourages the first years to give their best shot. Toragami frowns acridly, remarking that Izumi's kindness will win people for him for sure, because who wouldn't want a walking motivational poster like Izumi? The match begins, and the opposing team serves the ball first. The ball flies over the net and heads towards Koharu. Yuko frantically calls out to a panic-stricken Koharu, who quickly raises her fists, claiming that she got this. Unfortunately, she misses the ball and accidentally steps over it, to everyone's alarm. Instantly, she falls flat on her back with her fists joined together in the same position. In no time, the whole gym bursts into laughter at her comical position. Yuko anxiously wonders about her well-being, but Koharu breaks into a chortle, completely uncertain about what actually happened. Yuko helps her up, assuring her that she can always try again. Suddenly, Takeuchi bursts into hysterical laughter, rudely remarking about her wild fall. He loudly mocks her, shamelessly calling her a weakling and emphasizing that all her practice has gone in vain. He doesn't realize that Tachibana is behind him. Tachibana calls him out with a huge grin, and a stunned Takeuchi turns around. Tachibana reminds him that the first-year girl's name is Koharu Kanba. He makes a shocking revelation that she was genuinely worried about Takeuchi's struggles. When Takeuchi stares at him curiously, he explains that back then, when he was bad-mouthing in the hallway, she anxiously realized that he was struggling and was afraid that he would end up alone. Takeuchi probably didn't think Koharu cared, but hey, she's more compassionate than your average cartoon hero. At first, Takeuchi is left in a stupor, but then he furiously shuns off his lecture. But Tachibana raises his voice, remarking how strong Koharu is. Seeing his long face, an amused Tachibana wonders whether he has developed an interest in Koharu, but he warns her that her heart belongs to him, and he wouldn't let anyone have it, not even Takeuchi. Next, he points at Koharu, who is serving that round. One can see Tachibana's twinkling eyes. He takes a long breath and then yells at the top of his lungs, cheering for Koharu. He loudly declares her the princess of his infinite Tachibana style, and then says raging words to buck her up. Instantly, Koharu is charged up, and it can be seen that other people also set up to cheer for this cute and funny girl. Next, Izumi also joins the bandwagon, while a deadpan Toragami stares at her wide-eyed. As she is all set to serve, the whole environment around her is stressed out, including Takeuchi. But a raging roar comes out from the dojo king, shaking the whole gym as he urges Koharu to go for the serve. Instantly, Koharu hit the ball, and this time, her hand hit it perfectly, sending the ball flying towards the other side of the opponent's side. However, the ball touches the ground as no one manages to break that serve, earning a point for Class 1 to 3. There is a pin-drop silence around, while Koharu stands dumbstruck, unable to believe that she actually did it. Suddenly, Yuko throws herself over her, lauding her amazing serve. Even a jubilant Izumi praises her for her efforts. Koharu looks around towards a beaming Tachibana, showing her a victory sign. She smiles at him and returns the victory signal. The victory sign is basically Koharu's way of saying, "I'm a volleyball pro now, thank you very much." Tachibana screams at her to keep grinding the opponents just like that. Meanwhile, Takeuchi stares at him in sheer confusion. Soon, the fiery match progresses, with Tachibana continuously rooting for Koharu, and then finally, Class 1-3 wins the game. A shocked Yuko cannot believe that they actually nailed it. Everyone credits Koharu for her brilliant performance, while Yuko suggests both shooting for the championship, and Koharu cannot agree less. A high-spirited Tachibana proclaims how Koharu has changed in such a short time and claims that she is strong enough to do anything. Koharu, in return, thanks him for believing in her and training her. Tachibana's enthusiasm could probably fuel a rocket ship to the moon at this point. Unexpectedly, Takeuchi apprehensively approaches them. He bows and apologizes to them, revealing that he has been envious of them the whole time. He admits that Tachibana is a lot better at sports than he is, and they both appeared to have so much fun practicing together. Next, he addresses Koharu, guessing that she might have been quite scared of getting trash-talked by a senior. He sincerely apologizes to her, then he abashedly turns away, promising that he will never bother them again. Both Koharu and Tachibana are left in a stupor as he slowly trudges away. Instantly, Koharu calls out to him, and when he turns around, she reveals that back in middle school, she didn't attend school that much. She used to wonder why she couldn't do what others could, and that kinda bothered her. She insists that even she can relate to the quality of being capable of envying others, and she finds that version of herself quite attractive. She considers him a kind senior who apologizes to a freshman of only 2 months. Takeuchi thoughtfully remarks that Koharu seems to have experienced multiple lives. An embarrassed Koharu immediately apologizes for being cheeky as a first year. You know you've made it when you've got senior-level deep thoughts at the age of 15. The conversation is about to take an awkward turn as both parties are beginning to panic, when a sprinting Tachibana comes to their rescue. He frantically grabs Takeuchi and animately drags him to give their best shot in the baseball match. He believes that in this way, they are building a soul-bonding relation. A beaming Koharu watches them leave. Out of the blue, Tachibana roars excitedly that knowing Takeuchi's honest feelings thrills him to the core. A shocked Takeuchi pulls away from him, complaining that he is being too close and deafening. At this point, Takeuchi probably wishes he could just disappear into the ground. Meanwhile, Koharu ponders that for Tachibana and herself, it is nice to have friends. Soon, Izumi and Yuko join her. A jittery Izumi wonders whether Koharu is interested in watching the first year's boys basketball game. He emphasizes that being first years, they should root for the first years. An amused Yuko guesses that Koharu has charmed 2 seniors at once. On the other hand, a silent Taragami can see that things are becoming more and more interesting, and for him, school has begun to become more fun. The sports festival continues, as Koharu and her friends shine in their own sport. When it ends, Koharu, Yuko, and some other girls gather at Taro's BBQ restaurant. It appears that Yuko is on the verge of tears, since their team ended up in the runner-up position in volleyball. She is quite frustrated, since everyone worked so hard. Koharu tries to pacify her, saying they will work hard next year, but Yuko points out that next year they will all be in different classes. Koharu hopes they all stay together in the next class as well. A smile appears on Yuko's face, and she instantly throws herself on Koharu, sobbing hard. Yuko's ability to latch onto Koharu like a koala is truly unmatched. Meanwhile, the other classmates whisper that Yuko is always looking for an excuse to cling to Koharu, leaving them feeling like third wheels during their cuddle moments. Suddenly, Tachibana walks in and spots the group. He heads straight to Koharu and congratulates her on winning the runner-up position. Delighted, Koharu asks if his class is also having an after-party, but he explains that their celebration already ended and some of the guys have moved on to a second round. The surrounding girls are stunned to hear that Tachibana actually knows Koharu. To her surprise, he suddenly takes her hand, gripping it firmly, and declares with absolute confidence that with her on the team, next year's championship is guaranteed. Koharu looks at her marked, tired hand and remembers how intensely he trained her. Filled with renewed determination, she clasps his hand back and vows that next year she will win the championship for sure. Tachibana is dumbstruck when she tearfully mentions how she was able to laugh it off and stand up when she fell, all because he gave her confidence. Tachibana feels electrified as he stares at his hand. Meanwhile, Koharu breaks down, realizing this is what frustration feels like, since this was the first time she has taken sports so seriously. Next, she picks up her chopsticks and offers him a shiitake mushroom from her plate, just as she promised. She wholeheartedly expresses her gratitude to him for being her coach. Yuko and all the other girls are left in a stupor, but Koharu promises him that next time she will bring a bento with properly cooked mushrooms. For now, she raises her chopsticks towards his mouth. Tachibana looks like he's about to get fed by the world's most dramatic first year. An elated Tachibana figures out from her pose that she is about to feed him with her own hands. Instantly, a humiliated Koharu holds back, hysterically apologizing for her disrespectful behavior to a senior. She requests him to sit beside her and decides to put the mushroom on a clean plate for him. Haphazardly, she guesses that he might need some sauce to go with it and wonders whether he wants it sweet or spicy. But before she knows, Tachibana stoically holds her hand, which is still holding the mushroom, gets closer to her, and pops the mushroom into his mouth. Everyone, including Koharu, is staring at him wide-eyed. He gleefully munches it down and guesses that he only hated it as a kid. He claims he actually finds it delicious. An exhilarated Koharu keeps on jabbering about how he should grill it, dip it into a sauce, and that anything can go with it. She is about to narrate the saga of her animosity with carrots as a child, when her friend points out that Tachibana has slipped away already. At first, she is shocked, but then a dreamy look appears on her face as she adds, like a wind, "Koharu's got that, he's too cool for this vibe going on." Soon, the girls begin to probe her about how they met, and she replies that he showed up suddenly in the nurse's office. On the other hand, Tachibana returns to his friends, who are anxious since he took ages for a bathroom trip. Tachibana pants heavily while trying to keep his thumping heart in control. Takuchi wonders whether he is sick, but he assures him of his well-being. Suddenly he spots a shiitake mushroom on the platter and quickly pops it into his mouth. He munches it down and hates the taste so much that a panic-stricken Takuchi remarks that he is turning as pale as a ghost. He frantically looks here and there for a gag bag, thinking that Tachibana might need to puke. A baffled Tachibana is certain that the shiitake mushroom he just had didn't taste like anything. The next day, he dashes towards class 1-3, looking for Koharu, wondering whether she has cooked shiitake mushrooms for him. Koharu mentions that she is still grilling them, and so the most popular second-year student, Hinoemon Tachibana, begins to hang out non-stop around first year, class 3. This time, it is even more noticeable to Koharu's classmates as they feel that the class has suddenly begun to revolve around Koharu.
Here I am.